Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we have this annual walk every year to acknowledge that domestic violence happens in all our communities and the importance of having loving, healthy relationships. So thank you so much for showing up and showing your support for our survivors and also for the preventative work we do to end domestic violence in our community. Before we get started, I should do an introduction of who I am. I'm just speaking at you and you're like, who is that, right? So I'm Gonzales. My pronouns are she, hers, and I am the Executive Director of Help of Door County. I would like to take some time to honor our ancestors and honor the indigenous people and the indigenous land that we're standing on. So if you would like, if we can just have some silence while I honor and do a land acknowledgement to the indigenous native tribes that were here in Door County. Ottawa, Potawatomi, Mia Mia, Ochethi Sakowin, and Menominee. Please know that while we're walking up and down on our land, that this is native and indigenous land, and we can honor it as well as the people that were here before us, right? Thank you for that. So, when we speak about domestic violence, it's always a hard and tricky subject to speak about, right? Because domestic violence is such an epidemic, not only within our culture and community here in Door County, but also globally. But one thing that happens is when we live in a beautiful place like Door County, we're mesmerized by this beauty and we don't think that domestic violence can happen here. But in actuality, it does. We served over 379 individual clients last year. Those were unduplicated clients that came in for emergency services. And I want to give you a little bit of information. Were you aware that 1 in every 6 national homicide that was domestic violence related happened here in Wisconsin? 1 in 6, those are national numbers. And I also want to let you know that we rank number 7 for domestic violence homicides in the state of Wisconsin. Actually, we rank number 8, but 2, we're tied for 6, so that makes us 7. North Carolina and Missouri, we're both in that 6th place. Last year, there were over 80 domestic violence related homicides just here in the state of Wisconsin. Or the year before, 2022, we had 96. That is over a 20% increase. And while homicides continue to increase and the services needed by our community continues to increase, unfortunately, funding on a national level continues to decrease. And so does funding in our state. I was just recently at our Governor's Council meeting, just earlier this week, for the Domestic Violence Awards, honoring those that do this work and every day and live out their passion and live out their activism and advocacy. And we got the news that federal funding has been cut from 44 million down to 14 million. That is over a 70% cut in funding. So while I mentioned our statistics are going up 20% in homicides and the numbers continue to rise, unfortunately the funding for life-saving services, such as those that Help of Door County provides, keeps getting decreased. I want to remind you that 20% increase is also not accurate when we take into account all of the indigenous missing and murdered women, and also times where people won't associate relationships. Sometimes we'll get in our homicide reports that folks are roommates, maybe because they're not out in their community, maybe they're not out with their family. So a lot of victims don't even make it on these reports. I want to acknowledge that, right? I want to acknowledge those that have been historically excluded, marginally excluded here in our community. I'm gonna step a little side note away from our DV statistics and think about who is affected by domestic violence. Everybody. Even if you're not in a domestic violent home, you're affected. Because whatever happens in our houses, in our homes, in our neighbor homes, will affect culture and society. And whatever happens in culture and society will affect what happens in our home. Earlier this week, the Door County Board voted on not being able to fly the LGBTQ plus two-spirited flag in our government buildings. And I want to bring a little awareness around that because we have survivors that identify as LGBTQI and two-spirited as well. And we know that statistically, trans women are at higher risk for homicide in their relationships. When we pass votes like this, we make our neighbors in our community feel unsafe to get help. We make them feel more unseen and unheard. And that intercrosses with domestic violence. Because so many of us survivors think that this is like a relationship problem, right? Or that it's our fault and we carry that shame. And in reality, it isn't. Trauma happens. It's generational. It just happens. It affects us all, right? I want to take a moment of silence and I want us to think of that. That even if you yourself don't identify as a survivor, or you may not know someone who is a survivor, I'm going to burst your bubble. You actually do know survivors. There are many here. I identify as a survivor myself and know that 1 in 3 women will experience physical violence in their intimate partner relationships, and 1 in 6 to 7 men. Another statistic I want to give you, as you see some of our fire and our flame youth here today, is that 1 in 5 Wisconsin teenagers experience physical violence in their relationships. 1 in 5. 1 of 3 of those same teenagers will never tell a soul. Can we take a minute to honor those that their lives have been lost? Can we take a minute to honor our survivors that are here today? Can we take a minute to honor those that work all the time to end domestic violence? Take a minute for yourselves too in supporting this important work. And let's start now. Thank you. That was some heavy stuff I said, right? I hope that you carry that with you, but I also hope that you look around and you see all of the young faces, that you see all the families, that you see everybody here today, and look to hope, right? Hope that healing can bring, hope for generational healing, hope that our community can heal, and hope that we can end violence. And I just want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Cathy. So I'm going to introduce a partner that is very near and dear to our hearts, Cathy Grier. What can I say about Cathy? Cathy is a fierce warrior, is an activist, is the founder of Open Door Pride, and just an amazing community partner. When you drive around Door County and you see LGBTQI two-spirited flags, know that a lot of that was due to Cathy's activism. And I want to give a little plug because Open Door Pride are the community partners for 3rd Avenue Playhouse is having a play called Irma Vep. It runs today through October 22nd. And Open Door Pride is also looking for volunteers that may want to volunteer to usher, or in any capacity. If you have that capacity to volunteer, a bonus in volunteering is that you're able to see the show. But let's go out and support our community. Let's go ahead and support Third Avenue Playhouse and Open Door Pride, and also Cathy and the amazing work that she's doing. So thank you, and I'm gonna give it to Cathy.
How about a hand for Millie? It's that tireless work that you do. Those statistics hit the gut really hard, but it's only through acknowledging that truth that we find ourselves in the position of being able to heal and being able to teach and being able to increase the fabric of our community. And you're absolutely right. What the county supervisors didn't realize, or maybe they did, but what happens by removing that pride flag, which is sanctioned in the month of June by presidents, by our governor, by different mayors throughout the country and in Wisconsin, by suppressing the right to fly that, suppressing an executive order, what you're saying is it's okay to continue to discriminate. And so thank you for bringing that up. I didn't expect that, but it is, we're all connected, because when one group is hurt, the other group is affected, and we all know somebody. Domestic violence is something that occurs. It's a part of our society that should never be. I'm a songwriter, so I like to use my songs and think that they make a difference. So I'm going to sing a couple of songs for you that are original songs that are inspired by my brain, who needs to feel that I can make a difference. And thank you. How are we teaching your boys at the age of womanizing is through? To honor a woman, you can't keep making her an image that's simply ain't true. We weren't drawn that way like a comic book dame. We got hips and curves, but you know we got brains. I've been through the fire for so long. I'm tired of proving, and I've been waiting too long for my turn. When doors open, I learn. I'm all burned. I'm all burned. I'm all burned. No wonder we're restless and bitching from all the games you keep putting us through. When we try to change the system over and over again, why does a woman still make less than a man? I've been through the fire for so long, and I'm tired of proving, and I've been waiting too long for my turn. When doors open, I learn. I'm all burned. I'm all burned. Fear is a powerful tool, and little girls learn it since when they're in school. Who stands up when they're confused and crying? So sick and tired of objectifying. I've been through the fire for so long. I'm tired of proving, and I've been waiting too long for my turn. When doors open, I learn. I'm all burned. I'm all burned. I'm all burned, burn, 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 burn. I'm all burned. I'm all burned. The truth is nothing gets done unless we all work together. And I appreciate, Billy, what you said about the things that I've done since moving here, but I would never have been able to do it without all the help of everyone else that has come to the Open Door Pride team. And I want to say that as a songwriter, I love to be able to put my angst into my songs. That way I can feel better. And I have the song, it's called The Happiness Blues, because you know, you could be happy and have the blues. It's all about perspective. When I get down on myself, feel so lost, can't find my way. I could be so hard on myself. Trouble seems like it's here to stay. When I get down on myself and a feeling of gloom fills my lonely room, too many tears, so awful for 1,000 reasons, and questions to ask the universe. Funny thing, happiness is right deep down inside of my bones. Yes, it is. And it is for you too. That's right. I said happiness, happiness, happiness. I sure do feel it right deep down inside of my bones, yeah. I know it's in my heart, even when I'm torn apart. Well, that's just the nature of the blues. When I'm feeling mighty down, I gotta reach in for the happiness. Yes, I do. It's the happiness that I'm feeling, yeah, yeah. Well, it's deep down in my soul. So if you get down on yourself, you better search for that silver lining. Because the sun comes up somewhere in the world. Reason enough to keep us all smiling. And that's why I call this the don't get down on yourself, it's happiness blues. True. And you have to have some superpowers to do that. And that's what we're all doing by being here today. Pulling that superpower. Ever since the day my mama told me, girl, you are crazy. I've been making my way in this world, just fine on my own. Don't get me wrong, if I decide to call you baby, come tomorrow morning, you'll be waking up all alone. 'Cause I've been there and I've done that, and I know I ain't going flower, no candy in a box. Check me out. I got superpowers. Listen up, I'm singing loud. You got superpowers too. Back in the day, I was waiting for somebody to save me. So hungry for love, I was down to only skin and bones. Back then I was a girl, but now I'm a lady, yes I am. And I ain't got no time for boys until they're fully grown. 'Cause I've been there and I've done that, and I know I ain't going flower, no candy in a box. Check me out. I got superpowers. Listen up, I'm singing it loud. I've been through fire, rain, got more power than pain. I feel the heat in my soul. 'Cause I've been there and I've done that, and I know I ain't no one's flower, no candy in a box. Check me out. I got superpowers. Listen up, I'm singing it loud. I'm gonna heat you up on this one. I want you to join in on this. So when I say rise, you say rise, right? I actually wrote this for Eve Ensler, now known as Eve. She has done miraculous work to end violence throughout the land. The Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I think this is a good song for us to all rise up for. Here to tell a story, so precious and fine, about a woman making a difference with her life. She's got a great plan, gonna make a stand. 1 billion rising up to end violence across the land. What we gonna do? Rise, stand up, rise, rise up against violence. What we gonna do? Rise, stand up, rise up for justice. Mothers and fathers, rise. Sisters and brothers, rise. Sons and daughters, rising up. We're gonna rise up high. justice, what I'm gonna do. Rise, stand up, rise up to end violence.
Cathy Grier, musician, performing here at Norton Park for the Help
So
of
what are
Door
we gonna
County's
do? We're gonna
Walk for
rise.
Me.
Yeah, so I want to take this moment to acknowledge all of my board, our staff, our amazing volunteers, past staff members that made here that are always help family. If you could please raise your hand so that people could see that you do the amazing work that you do to help support our community. Yes, you too, Miss Annie. Yes, thank you. Thank you for giving them a round of applause. This takes the whole community, and you know what? When I look at my help family, it's always, I wish I could do more, or what can I do more to serve? And it always comes from the heart. So just one more round of applause, because there's no way that we could do what we do without them. Thank you. Speaking of amazing team members, Joseph Lopez is here, and he's going to be our next performer. But I want to speak a little bit about the different programming that Help of Door County does, and why it's a little different than what other programs do around the state. So the mission of Help of Door County is to eliminate domestic violence through prevention and intervention services, and also to advocate for social change, right? We take a very holistic approach to do that. So yes, we're known for the crisis intervention that we do, the safe homes, our transitional living program, all of those emergent safety needs. But one of the really cool things that I'm proud of that Help does is the preventative work that we do with our youth. Our FIRE, that stands for Forging Youth Relationship Education, ended up growing. We have some FIRE founders over here, and even our Flame and Sparks founders here. And it's just great to see that that programming ended up growing to serve a wider audience. So from 7 to 10-year-olds, they're called the Spark. And the little story that came from there was we were presenting at a conference to end domestic violence. It was centered around youth. And we had one of our kiddos there, movement kiddos there, and they were asked what they learned, and what they said is, I see that adults very rarely respect youth around them. We had some really good conversations of adultism. But this youth happens to be my daughter, and I have to brag on her. So, me, raise your hand. She said, but you know what else I learned? I learned that the bigger kids do to us what adults do to us. And you can't have a fire without a spark. So I'm gonna start my own group. And that's exactly what she did. So from ages 7 to 10, you have Spark members. And from 10 to 13, not in high school, you have Flame. And then we have our original Fire kiddos, that Forging Youth Relationship Education. So if we can give a round of applause to our youth, and our youth that showed up as well, I think that's super important to enhance. One other thing that Help of Door County does differently than other programs is working with those that harm. And one of the things, excuse me. Okay. So one of the things we talk about is we don't end up in violence by committing violence, right? I have to move this. Ooh. So sorry. Thank you. Can you hear me a little better? Awesome. We don't end in violence by perpetrating violence, right? Violence is learned. Violence is learned in our homes. Violence is learned in our communities. Violence is all around us. And one of the main things is that those that perpetrate violence, more often than not, had violence perpetrated against them. And I think it's important in distinguishing that and naming behavior, but also not shaming people, right? Because when we call people abusers and perpetrators, and we call our survivors victims, we're putting a label on people, and it becomes their identity. A lot of us can't change our identities, but we can change our behaviors. And I think it's time we start naming that behavior. And that's who our next performer is. Our next performer works with our domestic violence intervention project or program, and that's working with those that harm. And understanding that in order to end domestic violence, we need to take a very holistic approach. We need to work with those that need those emergency services. We need to work with those that perpetrate harm. Because when we're in that room, we hear that that's not what I want to do. I want to be different, I want to change, and we see that. And we also work with youth to prevent violence. All the while with this holistic approach is the way that we're gonna end domestic violence in our communities. So that being said, I'd like to introduce our next performer, Joseph Lopez. Can we give him a round of applause to come up and speak? Who's been an incredible addition working with those that harm in our community. Thank you, Joseph.
Hi, everybody. I wrote a little book called Paper Tiger Hunters, and this is why. And this is short and sweet because that's how I write. Healed men make good partners, fathers, brothers, sons, and friends. They make good leaders. Healed men set good examples for the next generation. My work at Help of Door County taught me a lot about domestic violence, how common it is, and what is sometimes missing from the conversation. There are things that fall under the category of domestic violence that many of us don't think of. There are so many subtleties to shine a light on, so much work to be done, so much conversation to be had. I wanted to be part of a discussion and solution. I wanted to find a way to give back. My work focuses on the men who caused harm. Part of this work is helping men think differently about their use of power and control, their behaviors, and what that all means. I help them to dig deep and actually see themselves and the person they hurt, sometimes for the first time. I've learned a lot from our conversations, and they've learned a lot from me. I've learned that many men are struggling with anger, anxiety, depression, loneliness, and grief, and often feel alone. They may want help, but don't know where to begin. I've learned that we are complicit. And unless you and I are actively part of the solution, we are helping perpetuate a system that does not work. I learned that healing begins locally. For men to heal and relay that healing into their homes and communities, we need to offer them safe spaces. Spaces that are free of shame and judgment. Spaces for them to bond and let down their guard. Places that go beyond hunting, sports, and bars. Places that offer tools, knowledge, and accountability, where real conversation happens. We must create more of these spaces. We need to be a safe space for them. We need to celebrate and make these spaces sacred and encourage healing and conversation. Above all, we must begin with empathy. That's what I'm doing, and I hope to see more of us do the same.
All right, so this is when all the fun commences. So our walk is gonna change, because usually if you've been with us before, you know we go up this bridge and we wrap around the steel bridge, but because of bridge maintenance, we are gonna keep it a little sweeter, a little shorter. We're gonna walk up, I always call it the new bridge. Is that what everybody else calls it? Okay, the new bridge. We're gonna go ahead, walk up, turn back around, and meet in here. So I just wanna thank you all again for being such an amazing community, always so supportive, and let's walk, let's rise.
That's Millie Gonzales, Executive Director of Help of Door County, and the walk with me is going to be done over the Maple and Oregon Street Bridge, as she said, and then back here at the park where they'll celebrate again and also commemorate the National Domestic Violence Awareness Month that is going on all month long, celebrated with the walk with me today here at Martin Park. Reporting for Door County Daily News and New Radio, I'm Paul Schmidt.